I have some tips to help you fine-tune the fit of your bust dart when you're working on shirt fitting. Recently, I was working on fitting my own perfectly fitted shirt because I've changed size. I decided to start from scratch, and this is something that's really odd that happened. My bust dart was too low. That never happens. And when I noticed that that had happened, I took a deeper dive into looking at the shape of the bust dart, how it was fitting me, the cup shape it was forming, and a few other things. So I want to share a few things with you. Now, if you follow along with me, you know I start at the top and we've worked to fit the upper back, neck, shoulders, and high bust first to get that to hang properly. And then we deal with the base of the armhole, the bust dart, the waist, and the hem. So even when you're doing that top down order of fitting, sometimes after putting on the sleeves, things seem to magically shift because I carefully adjusted my bust dart. I thought it was in the right spot. I put my sleeves on, and what ended up happening was the cup shape just didn't look right. It looked a little big and it just wasn't in the right spot. So you can see here, I want to show you the after first. So I want you to see on this side how lovely this bust dart fits. And I'm going to show you what I did to get it to do that. So now that you've seen the after side, let's look at the before side. Now, when you look at this side of the bust, and I'm going to put it straight on so you can see them both here. This side fits, the bust dart's in the right spot, and the cup size is correct, or the room inside the cup is correct. When you look over here, I think you can see the bust dart is a little bit too low, and it's just not laying properly. So the first thing I did was, and I'm going to go back to this side because it's near me. What I did was I kind of felt and looked at the side of my bust. So at this point, it's important to have whatever bra you're going to wear when you're wearing your shirts on, because that can significantly change, how high or low your bust is from your shoulders depending on which bra you wear. And I've gotten away from saying, oh, wear proper foundation, or wear your best bra, or all these different suggestions. Wear the bra you wear every day. So I always wear an Anita sports bra. I wear them every day, whether I'm working out or not. They're comfortable. There's no underwire. And so that's the shape I'm fitting. And so that's what I had on when I got scanned for my ditto form. So this is my ditto form, and it is virtually identical to my shape. So you want to have the bra that you always wear on first, and then you want to feel and look and see where the bust dart is in relation to your fullness. Now, I've always said measure from your shoulder to your apex, okay? Depending on the overall shape of your bust, measuring from your shoulder to your apex might not give you the entire answer. And this is what I want to talk about here. Sometimes women carry their fullness above their apex. Sometimes they carry their fullness below the apex. So really the apex, which I think we all use the areola area as the goal for finding that apex. What you really want to do is look at the overall shape of your bust, and then from the side, you want to see that the dart is coming in and centered on the fullest part of your bust. And actually, for some shapes, that could be lower or higher than you thought. So I was positioning my dart a little bit too low, and when I picked it up about 3/4 of an inch, that got my bust dart into the position where it was creating the cup shape where I needed it. So I did that. And then the other thing we're going to notice if we look at the other side here, the first thing I want to do is get that bust dart up. So I am going to just pleat the fabric up to pick the bust dart up, because remember, the most important thing, or the first thing you do when you're fitting your bust, is you get the dart in the right position. So I'm just going to pin up a pleat over here. So I get the bust dart up to where it should be. All right, so you can see now the bust dart is in the right spot vertically. But you can also see, and I think I can pinch it here so you can see from the side, if I move this sleeve out of the way, there's like too much cup shape. So I can pinch out fabric here because the actual cup was too big. Now, that's a me problem. It might be a you problem too, but I tend to overestimate how much room I need for my G cup, right? So I made this giant dart, and honestly, the reason why I figured this out is I used my heavyweight muslin by accident to make this muslin, and because it was so stiff and it didn't just fall, that's when I really noticed that I had too much cup because I couldn't get it to lay nice. So if you're working with your muslin and you get the bust dart into the right spot, perfect. But the next thing is you want to test and see if you can get rid of some of that cup shape. So let me show you how I checked for that on my muslin before I adjusted my pattern. What I did was I unsewed just this part of the side seam so I could pull the dart intake away from the muslin, and then I basically pleated across, and I'm going to do it on this side so you can see what I did here. I basically went like this and created a pleat across the center front that goes right into the dart. Okay, so I'm going right into the dart, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. It's hard for me to show you while I'm doing it at the same time, but I'm just going to pinch up this little bit, and I'm bringing it right through the dart. And then when I get into the dart, I'm not going to continue to create this pleat right here, because if I pleat more under the dart, I'm actually making a bigger cup. So all I'm doing is just pinning it to the tip of the dart, and then if I wanted to continue the pleat all the way through, I would essentially be pleating out some of this dart intake. So I'm not pleating along the dart leg itself, I'm just pleating it through, and I'm just going to put some pins here so you can see how this would be. And actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll draw a line as well, because I really want you to see what I'm doing here. So essentially, you're pleating up to the dart, and then when you get to the dart intake, I'm just going to draw a brown line here so you can see where the pins would go. And actually, I think I'm going to take them, well, I guess I can leave them, but I think you can see here this brown line that I drew. It's right on the dart intake, right? I'm not pinching out a deeper dart. I'm just pinning along from the tip of the dart across the folded middle of the dart intake. So you can see when I pick that up, you can see it's got a much smoother fit. There isn't any extra ease in there, and it kind of looks, it looks like what I created on this side over here. Now, the reason why you don't see the pleat on the side that I already did it on is because you can test it like that. I pinched it out to see if I liked it, but then to sew it in and really try it, what you want to do is you want to take the dart out completely, and you want to draw the pleat straight through the middle of the dart, through the tip of the dart. And then what I did was I just trimmed. You can see if I turn this under here, I think you can see the pleat that I made is in the dart intake right here, making the dart smaller, which will make the cup smaller. And then I just cut the pleat off very close to the stitching so I could redraw my dart and sew it back together to test it to see if it really fit. So step one is that you want to pin it out to see if it gives you a nice shape. If that looks like that's going to work, you take it out. So you take your side seam out to below the dart, take the dart itself out so it's laying flat, draw your pleat across the fabric like it's a paper pattern, sew the pleat, trim it as close to the stitching as you can, redraw your dart and then sew your dart back. Because if you leave the pleat, then it's really hard to see what's going on because you have a pleated fabric mussing up like near the tip of the dart. So that's how you can do that. And I just want to show you here. Let's look at my pattern. So I'm going to show you my personal pattern here. And it is a little bit of a hot mess, but you can see the original dart was down here, and I cut a box around. So I cut here, and I slid it up, and then I filled this area in with paper, right? So I picked the dart up, and then I also cut across and made the dart smaller. So let me just show you how to do this adjustment quickly on a sample pattern so you can see what I mean. The first step is going to be to, I'm just going to draw a little box around my dart here, like this. Now this box does not have to be any size as long as the entire dart is in the box, right? And then I need to raise my dart. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut my dart out. And let's say I needed to pick that up 3/4 of an inch. Now this is a smaller pattern, so I'm just going to pick it up this much, let's say. So mark the amount you want to pick it up, and then essentially I'm just going to slide this little rectangle that I cut out up. I'm not moving it horizontally, I'm just sliding it up vertically. So you can see this cut edge did not move, okay? And then I've got this little space here, so I'll just go in with some paper and fill that in. Like this. All right, so now I've got the dart up to where it needs to go based on how I fit my muslin. Then I'm going to go ahead and draw the pleat. So whatever the size pleat that I made, let's say I made, a 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch pleat across to make the cup size smaller, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one like this, and I'm going to slide it together like this. Now whenever you do this kind of adjustment through the front of your pattern, just make sure when you tape it back together, the center front is still, 100% straight. So use a ruler as a guide to make sure that's working, but then you can tape it back together. Now you can see what happens is my dart got a little bit fuggled up because I cut through diagonal lines. So we need to fix that. But you can see here, my dart intake was reduced by the amount of the pleat. So this dart intake is now 3/8 of an inch smaller than it was before I took this pleat out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to redraw this, and I'm going to do it in a different color. All right, I'm just going to use black. Ooh, this is a funky looking black. I think this is I don't know, let's see what kind of line this makes. So I'm going to connect my original dart legs here and here with the original tip of the dart. Okay, so basically I'm just going to draw this line. All right, so now I've fixed my dart, but I also want to make sure the dart legs match. So I'm going to measure here. So this one is oh, I can't write with that. This one is 5 1/4. The top one is 5 1/4. The bottom one is 5 1/2. So what that means is I need to lengthen the lower one to make it match, or I can split the difference and make one a little bit longer and a little bit shorter. But I think whenever I'm fitting a dart, I always like to make them match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one 5 1/2 by sticking it out here. And I just happen to have just that little bit of paper I need. And then I'm just going to angle from here to here. like that. Okay, so you can see I'm just adding that little bit to the side. Okay, and then when I fold up my dart, so I'm just going to go ahead and fold this up now. So I like to fold on the bottom dart leg for larger darts, for larger cup sizes, and then swing it up to meet the upper dart leg like this. You know, and you want to get it, you know, so it's pretty, so it's folded shut pretty accurately all the way to the tip. That'll give you your best result. Okay, and now if I cut off the extra paper, you can see that gives me the shape I need. Hold on, let me... You can see that gives me the shape I need for the side of the dart. So it comes out and then it goes back in. And I think it would be a little point there, like if I had a little more paper right here. Let me just show you what I mean. I think this paper was a little short. So like if I just fold that again, like this, and cut this off. Like this. Oops. See, we've got that nice point, and we've got the shape of the bust dart. All right, so that's how you can transfer your adjustment. But I just want to recap here and say, the most important thing in this tutorial is to really, you know, eyeball from the side where that fullness is hitting you, okay? Because that bust dart is basically the center of the cup. So you want that to be sort of centered in your fullness, and the apex itself may not be where your fullest part is. So I just wanted to share this with you, and I just want to give you a heads up that the next couple of weeks of Fit Tip Tuesdays are going to be about fine-tuning fitting the back when you have a curve, whether it be a prominent shoulder blade, a high round back, a rounded back, or some people even just have a little bump at the base of their neck. So look for those tips in the next coming few weeks. And then after I do those, I'll be wrapping up bodice fitting. But this has really been a fun series for me. The drafting, the fitting, and the designing. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.